Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to what could possibly be one of the hardest challenges I will be attempting in all of Pokemon Yellow version solo playthroughs. I'm Droozee, and today we're going to see how much punishment I can endure as we figure out if Weedle will be able to beat Pokemon Yellow all by itself. I'm going to be doing this item list for as long as possible to see how it stacks up, but I already think I know how this one's going to go. I'm not going to sugarcoat this one here. Weedle is bad, like really bad. I'm sorry if you like Weedle, it's nothing against it personally, but it's tied with Caterpie at number 150 for total base stats in Gen 1, and that means we're going to have abysmal stats compared to most normal Pokemon our level throughout the entire game. Because of these terrible stats, it's actually the first time I've reset at the start of a run to get a favorable starter in this entire series. Looking for a Weedle with good attack, HP, and defense, and we name our hero Sting because that's literally all he can do the rest of this run. Because we're always going to try for the hardest Eevee-lution for our rival, today we're going for Flareon, which means we're going to have to either win the lab fight or rival 1A. But I want to avoid rival 1A at all costs, so a lab win is the best path forward. It does take a few tries, but on our third attempt, we get the outcome we're looking for, and we're on our way to greatness. Or something. I don't know if anything in this run will really be considered great, and that's because of another thing Weedle has going against it, and that's its learn set. You see, Weedle's learn set is very limited. I actually think it's a stretch to call this a learn set at all, because it doesn't actually learn anything. That's right, the moves we start with, a 15 base power poison move and a speed lowering status move, are the only moves we'll have all run. I know some people are saying, but what about Struggle? And technically we will be able to get Struggle, but that's a 50 base power normal move, and that means we can't hit Ghost with it. And also with our low HP, I don't know how viable it's going to be for bulky Pokemon later in the run, or when we run up against larger Pokemon teams. And if the level up learn set wasn't bad enough, the TM learn set is even worse. It has absolutely nothing. Weedle can learn no TMs in this game, so that's very frustrating, and we're stuck with only Poison Sting or Struggle as our only two attacking moves. And that's going to be the most frustrating part that I see right now. It's going to be that lack of options that we have to improve our situation. If we could evolve into a Kakuna, at least we could get Hardened to take advantage of the badge boost glitch, but this is a Weedle only run, so we're going to be stuck with our little bug friend for the entire run. It doesn't take long to see just how much Weedle struggles when facing anything with a resistance to our Poison Sting. We come into the Light Years trainer battle at level 14, and we struggle to do any damage against the Diglett. Yeah, we're doing some damage, but you have to remember that Diglett has a low HP and a low defense, and we get stalled out and we're 5 levels higher. This is already shaping up to be a very long and painful challenge. One thing we do have going for us in the early game is that our poison moves are super effective against the bugs in Viridian Forest. This means Caterpie and Metapod are relatively easy to grind out some experience on. Metapod has another benefit to us, and that is that it only knows Harden. So that makes Metapod a great opponent to quickly use up our String Shot PP, allowing us to unlock Struggle for any battles that we might want to try, including the one that's going to be coming up in our rematch with the Light Years trainer. With that brief teaser out of the way, we've used up all of our PP for our Struggle now, and let's see how we do against the Light Years trainer. Battle goes much better this time. We're doing a lot more damage, but because of the recoil, we're only at about half health heading into Sandshrew. I mean, at least we made it to Sandshrew though. We level up, and we're doing about 1/4 of the Shrew's health and damage, but we're taking damage quickly, and ultimately, we're just not quite tanky enough right now, and we go down, so it's once again back to the forest to grind out a few more levels before we challenge him again. We come back at level 18 this time, and Struggle is still doing a lot of damage for us, and because we have more HP, we're able to get through the Diglett with a lot better chance against the Sandshrew. With that in mind though, I still don't know if we're going to have enough. It may still be a 4-hit KO. We get a critical hit though, and that is huge, and that gives us the opportunity we need to do one more Struggle and take out the Sandshrew, defeating the Light Years trainer, and then we're able to use up a couple potions and go straight back and face Brock for the first time. It's a scout battle, we're going to see how things go, but I think it could be an interesting one just to see how far off we are and how much more grinding we're going to need to do. Either way we go into this battle, it's not going to be great for us because he's going to resist either move we use, whether it's Struggle or Poison Sting. And we see right away that our Struggle is not doing a lot of damage, and we're getting tackled for good damage as well. So already see this isn't going to probably be the way we win this fight, but we are able to whittle the Geodude down over time, and we might actually be able to take it out. And it turns out that at our level 18 here, we do almost enough to take out the Geodude. but we end up coming just short, and that's going to mean that we're going to have to go back to the forest and level up some more. We come back at level 24, because at level 20, we were able to get past the Geodude, and then level 22, we were able to get the Onix to around half health with good luck, so 24 might be the right level. We're using Struggle, and this is the second battle, because the first battle I tried Poison Sting, and it might have worked, but it wasn't going to be very consistent, and it was going to take a lot of good luck. You can see now that Struggle is doing a lot more damage to the Geodude, and we're taking about 3 recoil damage each time. We level up coming into level 25 for the Onix, and our Struggle is actually doing okay damage right now. The key to this Brock battle comes down to him using Bide at the right time. If he uses it early, we're in trouble. This time though, he waited until the 4th turn to use it, and that opens the door for us to do some good damage with our Struggle before that. Now, we need a 3-turn Bide, and that critical hit is fantastic. That gives us a little more wiggle room. We get the 3-turn Bide we need, and Struggle takes out the Onix, giving us our first badge, and that wasn't as tough as I thought it would be. I mean, it still was tough, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't horrible. The challenge is already showing some of its difficulty, but at least Weedle was able to make it by without being at an insanely high level. 25 isn't too bad overall, so I'll take it. And with that, we're going to progress on to the Poké Center out front of Mount Moon, and here's the opportunity of a lifetime waiting for us. After we heal our Weedle, this man catches our eye, and he's willing to give us a swell Magikarp for only 500 Pokédollars. While that's almost 1/3 of our current money, we can't pass up this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity at such a rare Pokemon. Obviously we take this, add this guy to our team. Weedle needed a friend who also wasn't good in battle. Mission accomplished. Our Mount Moon fight with Team Rocket, Jesse, and James shows another painful point about using Weedle and our only attack being a weak poison type. Anytime there's resistance working against us, things are super slow, and at least with some of the other types like ground, we can at least get poison to help set in, but when we're facing poison types, we have to either use Struggle to do big damage and then hope we have enough HP, or we have to hope that we're just strong enough and usually just over-leveled enough to make it through. Overall here you could see that we barely made it past the Coughing with enough health, but that does allow us to get to Cerulean City, but it's not a good sign when Coughing is a bit of a brick wall for us. If we were using items and we could heal in battle, it would be a much more viable strategy, but without items, this results in a lot of very close battles. It is a bit stressful, but at least it makes it more interesting, and some of the battles that normally wouldn't be close all of a sudden become a lot more fun to play. After a quick heal, we go into a rival battle, and we're using Poison Sting, because I don't think Weedle's going to have enough HP to make Struggle viable here. We get that first turn poison on Spearow, so that's really nice, and although it does do 20 damage to us before going down, we're able to move on to Sandshrew. Sandshrew can be a big problem for us, and we really need poison to speed things up in this battle, because Sandshrew can use either Sand Attack, make this battle much harder, or Scratch that does really good damage to us. In this battle, we see a bit of both, taking 2 Sand Attacks before we get our poison to hit in. Thanks to all the Sand Attacks, we can't reliably hit anymore, and even though we're finally able to take out the Sandshrew, we're -6 in accuracy by this point. And so that's really not a great place to be, the only minor benefit being that all those Sand Attacks activated the Badge Boost glitch, so that means that if we are able to get a lucky hit, we're going to be doing a lot more damage than we normally would. So as I mentioned, we were able to get by the Sandshrew here, thanks a lot to Poison, and that brings out the Rattata, and we do get one lucky hit against the Rattata before we end up going down to a Hyper Fang. You could see how much damage that did thanks to the Badge Boost glitch, but we were nowhere near winning in that. And the worst part about that is that that was the best attempt we had in our 5 attempts against the rival. The next 4 all ended at Sandshrew, so I decided to see how we stack up against Misty. It's a change of pace. I'm not expecting success here, but I'm curious how far we have to go until we get the Cascade badge. And although I wasn't expecting success, I wasn't expecting it to be this bad. We do end up eventually taking out the Staryu, but we only have 25 of our 75 health left. So even with Starmie doing a lot to stall us out, going for Harden, going for X Defend, we don't really stand a chance. As soon as it attacks us, Tackle crits for 14 damage, one more hit and we're done. Water Gun finishes us off. So that means it looks like we're going to have to go to the rival fight, and so back at level 30, we test it out again. For everyone who's interested, Struggle wasn't really possible at level 28 or 29 because we couldn't handle the attacks from his team combined with the recoil damage we were taking. It would cause us to faint before Eevee every single time. There are 2 keys to this battle. The first was the boosted attack we got from Spearow, and then each time Sandshrew also uses Sand Attack, and the second is the early poison on Sandshrew. This gives us a chance to survive with at least a little bit more health heading into his Rattata and eventually for his Eevee. Since we've gotten hit with so many sand attacks, a little bit of accuracy luck always helps here too, but the main theme of this run is needing a lot of things to go right anyway, so we're seeing that again here. The problem with this Weedle run is there really isn't much strategy because we don't have many options. Anyway, we finally take out the Rattata. We only have 8 health left for Eevee. Luckily, Eevee only has 1 attacking move and attacks at random. Fortunately for us, he never uses Tackle, instead using Tail Whips and Growls, giving us the time to connect with 3 Poison Stings, earning us the victory and unlocking some trainers to level up against, and also opening up the SSN as a further place that we can train up our Weedle. Once we faced all these trainers down at the SSN and up north of Cerulean City, we're now at level 36 at our next fight against Misty. To say this battle went well would be a huge understatement. We start by getting a crit against the Staryu, allowing us to get by the first Starfish with nearly full health. Starmie is out next, and it starts with 2 turns of buffing its defense before going for a water gun, which is good because it's not Bubble Beam. It's important that we avoid Bubble Beam as much as possible because it does huge damage. We finally get our poison with our Poison Sting, as you see exactly how much damage Bubble Beam can do, and that wasn't a crit. So, as it uses Tackle, that's still good, and we're able to keep whittling it down. It's using Harden, and then we get a crit to take it down its final about 1/4 health, and that earns us the Cascade badge at level 36. Weedle has a crit rate just under 10% in Gen 1, so getting a couple of these in one battle isn't too out of the ordinary, but the timing of them was absolutely fantastic. With our second badge, we're now headed back to the SSN to take on rival number 3, because he's been pretty tough so far, and I need to make sure that we were ready to take him on. We come into this battle at 37 because I fought a couple of the trainers east of Vermilion City before this, and fortunately for us, his team isn't too much stronger than last time, and his Spear is a 3-shot, and we don't take too much damage. Rattata's out next, so it's much easier time than in Cerulean thanks to having full accuracy, and the rat goes down after 2 Poison Stings. Sandshrews out next, and this is where our problems are always going to be. We get extremely fortunate that the rival doesn't decide to destroy our accuracy at first, allowing us to take the Sandshrew down to around half health and poisoned before he hits us with our first sand attack. Although we do get hit with one more sand attack before we take out the Sandshrew, we have just over 25% of our health heading into his Eevee. Just like in Cerulean, his Eevee only has 1 attacking move, so we just need a little bit of luck avoiding Tackle, which we do even though he's lowering our attack with Growl. We get the critical hit, and that's at a big point, and that allows us to take out the Eevee without too many more problems. We also get a poison to help us out, even though it didn't matter too much. And with that, we're past rival number 3. We can now get cut, and we can test out the Electric Gym. The Puzzle in Surge's gym can be super annoying and add some uneven time to different challenges, although it doesn't really matter for the Weedle run. To deal with this, I've decided that when I get to the gym, the first thing I do is save. Side note, check out that awesome game time so far. We're approaching the coughing end run time already, and I thought that was a rough run. Anyway, after saving, I find the first switch and then try to find the next switch right away. If it works, great. If not, then I reset since it's always in the same location to start and try again. It keeps things a little bit more even from run to run, since I'm not wasting tons of in-game time rummaging through trash cans. With the trash can puzzle solved, we head on in to take on Surge and his Raichu. I don't know exactly what to think on this one. He only has the 1 Pokemon, so that will make it a little bit easier. Maybe Struggle will be a little bit more of a viable strategy in that case, but we're going to test out the Poison Sting strategy first. We outspeed, but his Thunderbolt is doing massive damage, over half our health. Thankfully, he doesn't know this, and because Mega Punch and Mega Kick aren't 100% accurate, we have a chance to work him down to red before eventually going down. Eventually he does connect, but at least this looks pretty promising. On the 5th attempt, we finally get things to go our way. He starts with Growl and that fails, and our second Sting gets a crit and a poison, which is huge. As long as we don't get Thunderbolt, we're in good shape, but that's exactly what happens. After that though, he switches away from his signature move, using Growl while we crit before he uses an X-Speed. We just need one more, but now he outspeeds. Mega Kick almost takes us out, bringing us to red, but we're able to finish him off with a Poison Sting and get our 3rd badge. With no other options but to head through Rock Tunnel, we have a grueling grind against an Elite 4 of trainers outside of the Indigo Plateau. I say this is a joke, but also kind of not. At this point, we're just over 8 hours of game time, which is usually when most Pokemon have already reached the league, and this section is so hard for Weedle. There are 5 trainers in here that are mandatory, and just like the league, they're brutally hard. The first is this Pokemaniac with a Cubone which resists us, and a Slowpoke that if we get by the Cubone, hits us with confusion and does huge damage because it's super effective. This is an absolute brick wall right now. And by right now, I'm not talking for only a few levels, because at level 42 we still don't stand a chance. Even with struggle, we don't do enough damage, and even though we can get the Slowpoke to red health at that level, we can't actually get KO without KOing ourselves. Unless we get a 1 in 256 miss glitch, we're not going to be able to beat it at that level either. Knowing that we can knock out the Slowpoke at level 42 though, means that we're only one level away if we can get a little bit more health. So that means back at level 43 we can finally get things to go our way. We struggle past Cubone with 85 HP left, which gives us enough of a chance to survive Slowpoke, taking it out and leaving us with 2 health. But we get the win, and that took almost 2 hours of in-game grinding to achieve. Absolutely crazy. Remember how I said this was the Elite Four? Yeah, it doesn't get any easier from here. Next up is Pokemaniac number 2, who has a level 25 Slowpoke. I've switched back to the Poison Sting here, and that was probably a mistake, because unless we get a favorable range or an early poison, we're going to lose. That's exactly what happens here. Luckily for us, this isn't the real Elite Four, because we'd have to go back and face the first Pokemaniac again. We immediately get a rematch, and this time, I'm going to use the struggle strat. Will this strategy turn out a little better? The answer is a resounding no. Although we are able to deal a bit more damage, the recoil makes up for it, and we end up losing again. 3 attempts later, we finally get the poison luck we need with the first turn poison. This gives us the range we need to take out the Slowpoke in 4 hits, thanks to a crit mixed in there. It didn't really matter because our 5th attack still would have got the win, but this is much more difficult than I ever thought Rock Tunnel could be. Weedle is full of surprises today. Luckily for us, we get a little bit of a break as we've now reached the Bruno of Rock Tunnel in this junior trainer. Weedle finally has a type advantage here, and we make quick work of the Oddish thanks to it trying for Poison Powder, but finally hitting a single Absorb for 1 HP of damage. After that, Bulbasaur comes out next, and we make short work of it again. We'll use 3 Poison Stings while it tries to poison us, and we get the win. We only took 1 HP of damage in that entire fight. I told you she was the Bruno of the Rock Tunnel Elite Four. That brings us to the infamous Exploding Hiker, and I'm terrified of how long this one's going to take. They resist us, and I don't know if we can tank all 3 self-destructs. But after seeing how much damage the first Geodude did with its self-destruct, I'm feeling a lot more confident. And then the second Geodude blows up on its first turn as well, and we have about half health. So as long as Graveler doesn't do too much damage to us, maybe a Rock Throw or self-destruct, that's perfect. We made it by the self-destructing Hiker in 1 try. I mean, we only had 9 HP left, but that was not bad. I was expecting that to take a lot longer than a first try victory. But with that victory, we can now make it to the Rock Tunnel champion, this random junior trainer. She has a Meowth, which goes down pretty easily to our Poison Stings. Oddish, we already know can't do much to us, and goes down pretty quickly as well. Although we do have a little bit of problem with going to sleep, it's not going to end up being too much of a problem overall. We wake up and we knock it out. Pidgey comes out last, and Weedle makes quick work of the small bird. It goes for a Whirlwind, which can't do anything, does a little bit of damage with a quick attack, and we take it out, and we emerge as a champion of Rock Tunnel. But we still get to claim our prize of a Max Ether, and we continue on our merry way, heading into Lavender Town before making our way to Celadon. Next stop is the rooftop of Celadon Department Store, where we get some high quality H2O for the Saffron Guards because it's cheap and fighting with only a Weedle could get expensive if we have to do significant struggle training. With our resistance to grass and neutral damage with Poison Sting, I decide to face Erica next, but it's just not quite happening yet. We're super effective against Tangela, and it's pretty weak overall, just giving us a relatively easy victory. Once we get past the Tangela though, things get a little bit harder. Weepinbell's next, and we're only going to be doing neutral damage, even though the text box says otherwise thanks to a Gen 1 glitch. Our Sting is going to do maybe 6 to 8 attacks to get a full knockout. One thing I didn't really think about shows up here, and it could make this battle rough. Both her Weepinbell and Gloom have acid, and that's super effective, and it does big damage. We are eventually able to take out the Weepinbell, leveling up in the process to bring on Gloom, but our Poison Sting is still going to need a lot more, and acid is doing enough that Gloom is able to put us to sleep, and at that point, this battle's over. We're going to need a little bit more training before we can come back and win here. Luckily for us, we still have the Rocket hideout to clear out, and we've cleared every Rocket grunt, so we go on and face Giovanni, and this is not looking good. We are doing almost no damage to Giovanni's Onix, even though we're 21 levels higher. That resistance is going to be a huge problem, and I think this is going to be a tough fight for quite some time. Making this even harder is that this Giovanni has good AI, so that means he's going to be using Rock Throw, while even though it has terrible accuracy in Gen 1, it does allow us to get hit by big damage when it does connect, so we're going to have to come up with another place to go and train. I'm going to go and take on Erica now. We have a couple more levels on us to see if this is more likely. Just like before, Tangela doesn't really have anything that can hurt us too badly, and actually it can be incredibly helpful if it goes for Constrict and gets a speed drop, because that activates the badge boost glitch and makes our Poison Sting even stronger. In this fight, we do get 3 speed drops over the course of the Tangela battle, which helps us, even though Erica uses Super Potion, be in a good spot heading into the Weepin' Bell. The downside to speed drops comes very quickly though, as it hits a first turn sleep powder. Now we're asleep. We only sleep for 2 turns and then get off a Poison Sting that looks to be maybe a 5 attack KO range. And after that, we keep on attacking and we get a couple good lucks for some misses on some stun spores and then a Razor Leaf, but we're able to take out the Weepin' Bell, making it to Gloom with 47 health. We get paralyzed against the Gloom and then it goes for Petal Dance. Our Sting still hits, and while it thrashes around, we hit another one. And it thrashes and we hit another one. And then it thrashes again. We're paralyzed, it's confused, it hits itself in confusion. Our Poison Sting hits, gets us the knockout, and gets us our 4th badge. 4 down, 4 to go. That was a little bit lucky, but in the Weedle run, you need a little bit of luck to have things go your way and make sure that you can move on in these things at a quick pace. So with that, we're now going to head on over to Pokemon Tower and face rival number 4. It was either rival number 4 or Giovanni, and there's no way I'm fighting Giovanni again yet. And rival 4 is actually pretty fun because there's very few places that we've been able to really use strategy to make our battles more consistent, and this is a rare occurrence where we can do exactly that. Manipulating Gen 1 AI allows us to set up against Fearow, since the Fearow only is using Flying type Mirror move against us. This copies whatever move we used against him, and so after starting out with a Poison Sting to set up our poison, I switched to String Shot, which will lower the Fearow speed and in turn lower our speed, activating the badge boost glitch each time it hits. So our attack is going to be way up for the rest of the fight now, and this is so great. It feels so good to be able to pull a little bit of strategy into this run. But at the end of this, we yet keep using String Shot even though it can't do anything. We just let the poison sink in, finish off the Fearow, and move on to the Magnemite. The downside to this strategy is that we will be outsped by his entire team, but we're going to be doing huge damage. We're 2-shotting the Magnemite coming in here. Shelder's out next, and Shelder's a 3-hit KO, partly thanks to a crit, and then that's going to bring us into the annoying as ever Sandshrew. The Sandshrew does what it always does, hitting us with sand attacks to lower our accuracy, hits us with some slashes to do some okay damage. It's not doing anything too bad because we are 27 levels higher than it, and even though it was quite annoying, and we do miss quite a bit, and he extends the battle thanks to a potion, we're eventually able to take out the Sandshrew, making our way back to his Eevee. His Eevee isn't a problem, as always. The biggest concern here is whether we hit with Poison Sting. We hit one right away, and then we hit our second one, even though we lowered our accuracy even more. So with those 2 hits, we've now beat rival number 4, and now our options are the Channelers in Pokemon Tower or Giovanni, and it's not going to be Giovanni. Even though we might be able to do more damage, it's still not going to be enough. And the Channelers might give us a little bit more experience, because we don't have many other options right now, and it's not really an easy task though. Although the Ghosts have low defense, they still resist our Poison Sting, and Struggle can't hit Ghosts in Gen 1. So we have to use Poison Sting, and even though we are over double these Ghastly in level, we still have such a hard time. Nightshade does good damage, and Parafusion combination is brutal. There'd be so many battles that all I'd need is one more attack to win, and I'd either hit myself in confusion or be fully paralyzed and lose only to have to start the battle all over again. For reference, I tried this fight for over 20 minutes because it was so tantalizingly close so often. It just wasn't happening though, and I went off, grinded a couple more levels, and come back against these Ghastly again at level 51. As it turns out, these extra couple of levels between 49 and 51 are huge. On our first attempt, we get some good confusion outcomes and avoid paralysis, and we make it to the second Ghastly with a ton of health. The second Ghastly starts out well with back-to-back crits to take it under half health, but then we get paralyzed. Fortunately for us, Weedle is as sick of this trainer as I am at this point, avoids confusion and paralysis for 3 straight turns, getting us the victory. This was the hardest of the challengers by far, but the others still took a few attempts too. That's going to be a recurring theme with the Weedle run as well. Almost every battle could be winnable, but it also can be very losable too. With all of these battles out of the way, now we have no choice but to face Giovanni. And I know I could technically bypass this with the Pokédoll on the Marowak, and believe me, I seriously considered it. I ultimately didn't want to use the exploit here, and this forced me to get a bit more creative. I come into this fight at level 54 with a single power point on Poison Sting. The strategy here is to get a poison on Onix right away and then be able to do actual damage thanks to Struggle. If we don't get that poison, that's an automatic reset and we start again. If we get the poison like we did in this battle, we start healing and hope for good luck with rock throw misses and at least one Giovanni guard spec, which you can almost always count on. And while this takes a while, we move on to the Rhyhorn at almost 3/4 health, and the Rhyhorn only uses Horn Attack, and the key is to avoid an unlikely critical hit. Eventually, we can move on to the Persian as well, and our Struggle is able to do just enough, able to take out the Persian and also ourselves. And so while we're technically able to defeat Giovanni, it's not allowed under my rules, so I have to keep trying. It isn't too bad though, because we know we can win, and there are many attempts that clearly aren't going to work, so there's not too much wasted time. Eventually, we get this attempt where we avoid a good amount of damage from the Onix, and once we take out the Onix, we move on to Rhyhorn and get a big first turn crit with our Struggle, just big damage, and then also Giovanni helps by using guard spec right away. So that means we take a little bit less damage than we normally would against Rhyhorn and move on to the Persian with a lot more HP than we would need. Moving on to Persian, we do over half health, it goes for Payday, and we barely hang on with 3 HP, but that's a win, and we can now move on and we can do other things besides struggle our way against Giovanni. This was one of the most brutal battles that I can remember. Absolutely crazy luck and some strange tactics to win here. But with the Sylph Scope in hand, we can take on the Ghost Marowak now. This was a bit of a struggle, pun kind of intended, but only took a few attempts overall. The key here is to get an early poison, and the failed attempts all either had no poison or it just took too long and we were too low of health to be able to get a win. In the successful battle you're seeing here, we got the first turn poison, and even though we took a ton of damage, we eventually get a critical hit later in the battle, and that gives us the window of opportunity we need to calm the restless spirit. So normally this is basically the end of the Pokemon Tower story because Jesse and James are usually pushovers, but now they are absolutely anything but that. This is definitely not a normal fight. With Weedle, everything is crazy. This is an awful fight for a couple reasons. First, obviously the poison resistance, which we see from Arbok and Weezing, so we can't poison them, and they're much stronger than before thanks to their evolutions. The other problem is there's not a great way to set up Struggle, thanks to the healing square within Pokemon Tower. This is sometimes a great help, but in this run, it means to set up Struggle, we have to waste all of our PP against the dangerous ghost Pokemon that we've seen before, or hope a Cubone appears and we don't take too much damage from it. This takes such a long time, and is super frustrating, as there's a chance you can get knocked out if you aren't paying very close attention. After this grind though, we come back with the same strategies we did against Jesse and James's boss Giovanni. We have a couple of poison stings from Meowth to save some HP from our struggle recoil, and these 2 stings are enough to take down the Scratch Cat and bring out Arbok. Struggle takes it down in 2 turns, and we avoid a glare here, which would have been annoying, but not necessarily a loss. Weezing's out last, and Sledge is very dangerous, but we do alright tanking the Gas Ball's attacks, allowing us to survive in red health and clear Pokemon Tower. Now we once again have a few more options we can choose from. Do we go to Fuchsia and face the Psychic attacking Poison Gym? Do we go after Rival Fivel and Saffron? Or do we seek out random information from trainers across the map while grinding levels? As you see from this guy's helpful message about TMs, I chose the last option. I know TMs normally help, but we're using Weedle, so thanks for the tip, but it doesn't apply to us. We've been able to grind out 12 more levels since our last Jesse and James fight, and since Psychic will trash my Weedle, I decide Rival Fivel is going to be a better barometer of our progress and make my way over to Saffron City and Silphco. I think the Sandslash is probably still going to be a problem here, but we need to see what we're working with to see how much grinding we're going to have to do. As Sandslash comes out, we're well above it, almost 30 levels higher than him, and our Poison Sting still isn't really doing much damage. We aren't able to get an early poison, and we're taking big damage with Slash. Sand Attack is also trashing our accuracy, so we really aren't in a great place here. Although we do end up taking out the Sandslash, we're in no condition to win this battle. We don't even do any more damage to his Cloyster when it comes out. So we're definitely going to have to grind some more levels, and we're probably going to have to try out the Poison Gym too to see how we stack up against Koga. And Koga goes about as poorly as it could. Our Poison Sting doesn't do nearly enough damage, and even Struggle only allows us to tie with the first Venonat. Great. It looks like we've hit yet another brick wall, and since I went into the Koga fight with a Struggle setup, I tried Rival 5 with the Struggle strat, and while it was better than the Poison Sting, it still isn't really viable either, so back to the grind again. At level 55, that is 15 levels higher than our last attempt, and things are only slightly better. At this point, I've seen that Struggle just isn't viable, so we're using Poison Sting, which takes 3 hits to knock out the first Venonat. A critical hit Psychic from the second Venonat puts us into a bad place though, as we're able to take out the second Venonat with only about half health. Third Venonat does big damage, and we're not going to quite make it past here, but we're doing pretty good overall, and we're getting closer. Maybe only a few more levels and we can take on the Venonat and maybe have a chance at the badge. After grinding for quite a bit on the grass on Cycling Road, we're back again, this time at level 90, and things are very similar. We're still stinging away, and it's still a 3-shot KO from us. Psychic's still doing 30 damage to us, and Koga uses an X attack this time, which is best case scenario heading into his second Venonat. Second Venonat also goes down in 3 hits, getting a couple Psychics off, but we're still above half health for his remaining Pokemon. Our Poison Sting is still in range for a possible 3-hit KO, but we don't get that here, and it hangs on. Luckily, he uses an X attack, so no harm, no foul, and we're finally on to the Venomoth. The Venomoth knows both Leech Life and Psychic, so we can use either one. Obviously, Leech Life is much preferred. Things start fantastically with a crit from Poison Sting to take him to around 60% health. He took us to red health with a critical hit Leech Life, healing a bit in the process. Another Sting takes him down, and then we get a critical hit Sting, putting him into red health, and we're able to take him out, surviving with 4 HP. If he would have used Psychic instead of Leech Life any time there, would have been bad, but we survive. That's our 5th badge, and after an absolutely crazy grind, we can now use Surf and check out Cinnabar Island and Blaine as well, and that's exactly what we're going to do because newer is always better, and I really don't want to face Rival 5 again. Blaine is scary because he has a huge type advantage of us with his fire being super effective, but at least we're going to be doing neutral damage with Poison Sting. In our first attempt against Blaine, we see that Poison Sting isn't a very strong move, but we already knew that, and a crit does do huge damage to Ninetales, and even though the first turn Flamethrower was very strong, we're not too bad heading into Rapidash. We get a poison on our first attack before we get hit with Takedown, but things go our way after that, with Rapidash either using non-damaging moves or missing the rest of its attack, and Poison Sting slowly take it down. Only Arcanine stands between us and our 6th badge. Unfortunately for us, Arcanine isn't messing around, and it takes us down with 3 takedowns before we even get it to half health. Although it wasn't a success, that battle looked very winnable with a few more things heading our way, so I keep trying it. On the 5th attempt, we get poison on our first attack, but we get confused. We avoid hitting ourselves in confusion and even get a Tail Whip, which will help us out via the badge boost glitch. Ninetales hits us with a couple quick attacks, leaving us with 200 HP for the other 2 members of Blaine's teams. We do a good damage on our first 2 Poison Stings and get a poison to stick before we get hit with a couple of Growls, lowering our attack and making this much more difficult for the upcoming Arcanine. Rapidash goes down after a bit more back and forth, and we're back to Arcanine. Our Poison Sting is going to be doing almost nothing to the Fire Dog thanks to those Growls, and then he used Reflect to even do less. Takedown does end up helping us a little bit because of the recoil, and as we get a poison to set in, we're not going to quit even though things are looking pretty bad for us. And a lucky Fire Blast miss helps us keep moving, and he is loving using Reflect right now. So he eventually uses a Takedown to get us down to 6 HP, then we get a Reflect again, and then within Poison and another lucky Fire Blast miss, Arcanine goes down, and we've earned our 6th badge, and now we can boost our special with the badge boost glitch, so that's a really nice extra that comes along with beating Blaine. I know this was a little bit of a lucky battle, but we're using Weedle, so I'm going to take it, and with that, we only have one option left, and that's to face our rival again in Sylph, so we're going to head back to Saffron City and see if we can take him down now that we're way higher level than we were last time we faced him. We're coming in at level 92 this time, and our Poison Sting is doing okay damage, but the biggest advantage is that we can now tank his hits much better. After a few attempts, we get the early poison that we're looking for, and this is huge because it helps a ton with getting extra damage on the Sandslash, but also reducing the chances of our accuracy being totally destroyed by the time we get to the rest of his team. In fact, in this battle, we got lucky enough to only have one sand attack go against us, and thanks to Gen 1 having 25% chance of status moves to fail, we have our accuracy intact the whole rest of the time. Cloyster's next, and we're able to take it under half health quickly thanks to a crit, and it turns into a 5-turn clamp after that, doing pretty good damage on us. Second supersonic fails, and we're able to take it out with Poison Sting. Magneton's out next, and it also goes for supersonics that both miss as well. Kadabra's out, we outspeed, and we get a one-shot, which feels so great to finally get a one-shot. We do pretty good damage to the Flareon, getting a poison, and it's in 3-hit KO range, but Fire Spin does 15 damage. Luckily, it stops after 2 turns. He uses a potion on Flareon, bringing it a little bit past red health, but that's okay because our Poison Sting does enough to take it out, and we've beaten Rival Fivel. Can now move on to Giovanni. And Giovanni's usually much easier than Rival Fivel, but in this case, I don't think that's going to be true. We still don't match up well against Giovanni, but being 50 levels higher than his best Pokemon helps that. It doesn't fix that, it helps that. But that's better than nothing. Nidorino is a joke in this battle. Even though it resists our Poison Sting and takes 5 hits to KO, it only attacks us one time, spending all the other turns using Focus Energy. Since it's broken in Gen 1, he's actually preventing himself from getting a crit, so really not helping anything. Persian's out next, easy 2-shot with Poison Sting. We don't take any damage, and we're doing really good coming into the Rhyhorn. We get an early poison, and things are looking fantastic for us. The early poison significantly reduces the time this battle takes. Once Rhyhorn is near half health, Giovanni pulls out his guard spec, I guess to prevent us from lowering his speed with String Shot? I don't really know. There really isn't anything left here for strategy-wise. We just keep hitting A on Poison Sting, and he basically repeatedly fails Tail Whip on us. Eventually, we get the KO and move on to Nidoqueen. Our Poison Sting is 4 times resisted, so it's doing very little damage here, and we can't get a poison thanks to the part poison typing of the Nidoqueen too. The Nidoqueen isn't doing too much damage, but I don't feel confident we're going to win this showdown. Body Slam does do pretty good damage on us as well, and then at some point Giovanni does remember that he needs to use a guard spec because we could use String Shot, which is pretty dangerous here. Eventually, we get paralyzed by Body Slam, and I'm definitely not feeling too good here. The Nidoqueen takes us to red health with another Body Slam, and then it decides it doesn't want to do that anymore and switches to Tail Whip for 3 of the next 4 turns, which boosts our attack and actually puts us in range that we can get the KO. We tank a scratch, avoid paralysis, and hit our Poison Sting, getting us the win. And like I've said many times before, incredible turn events, but it's a Weedle run. You take it when you can get it. Don't look that gift horse in the mouth. You smile, save, move on with your life, and move on to your next gym leader, and that's Sabrina. And this could be interesting because Abracadabra and Alakazam are all really frail, but they hit really hard with their special. Worried that I won't outspeed, so this is a scouting fight. We don't even have full health coming in here. We find out we do outspeed Abra. That's a one-shot, so no accuracy drops is great. Kadabra is a critical hit one-shot. It might matter, I don't know yet. It looks like it will because Alakazam does good damage, but it doesn't do enough. It's 3-shot range. Then it starts to heal, and now we're seeing with Reflect Up, it's not quite going to get done, but man, this is really close. If we would have got a poison, we might have been able to take it out, and we didn't even come in at full health. So this is looking very positive. I'm going to heal up, and even though we don't go down to that Psywave, we go down to the next one. But we're going to come back right away because that looked really good. We know that Abra is a one-shot with our Poison Sting, which brings out Kadabra, who comes out, and a Poison Sting does just about half, so it did matter. Recover ends up setting it up, and then an X Defend makes it hang on. We get the poison, so although we get hit with a special drop Psychic, we are moving on to Alakazam with just about half health. Our Poison Sting is still going to be a 3-hit KO, but Sabrina's not using Psychic, so that puts us into a good place using Psywave instead, and we're able to take down the Alakazam in 3 hits. That gets us our 7th gym badge. That's fantastic. The Psychic Gym against poison types, I thought it would be a lot more scary, but because Sabrina doesn't use Psychic all the time and she uses Psywave as well as Reflect and other moves, it really makes it possible for poison types to do pretty well against her. We saw that in Coughing Run, and we saw that again here. We make our way back to Viridian City for our 8th gym badge battle against Giovanni. And can Weedle keep up the momentum and complete the gym challenge? Well, first off, as we already know, Giovanni's a terrible matchup here. It takes us a long time to take out the Dugtrio, and we've taken some sand attacks in the process. Persian is going to be out next, but just like it has been throughout the run, it's not going to be much of a challenge for Weedle. It could do a slash, which could do okay damage, or get a critical hit Fury Swipes, which it does in this battle, but it doesn't do too much damage overall, and we're able to consistently make it onto the Nidoqueen, and that is where our problems really start. Like we saw before, we do almost nothing to this thing, and the only thing we have going for us is that because of Giovanni's good AI, he'll either use Thunder, which can miss, or Tail Whip, which activates the Badge Boost glitch, boosting our Poison Sting. There's a point where we miss like 3 straight turns, and so does Giovanni. This back and forth goes on for a long time. That's why I've sped up this battle, but we almost are able to take the Nidoqueen down to 1/4 health before a Thunder crits and takes us down. Even though we can do better in this battle with a mixed struggle strat and adding a few levels, there's no realistic chance right now. So as we think about what we're going to do next, we embark on a world tour. Take a trip to the Seafoam Islands where we find this goofy bird. Obviously, Weedle isn't a fan of birds, and we decide to knock it out. Caterpie and Weedle cross Kanto can now rest a little bit easier knowing this oversized bird is now no longer with us. We then head across Kanto to the power plant where we find another strange bird. Because Weedle is the champion of bug Pokemon everywhere, we obviously have to battle it too. Proving it wants to be the best like no one ever was, Weedle does just enough to take out the Zapdos, and with that in mind, he is very close to leveling up to level 100, and that'll be the strongest he'll ever be in this run. So after facing some more Pokemon on Cycling Road, eventually we knock out this random Ponyta, leveling up to level 100, forever preventing our buddy Sting from evolving, keeping him as a Weedle forever. Now comes the question, will these levels help us beat Giovanni? No they will not. See, Poison Sting is still just too weak against the Nidos, and we usually don't get anywhere near beating the Nidoqueen, let alone the Nidoking. That means we're going to have to do a struggle strat, but the problem here is that we don't have enough HP to tank the recoil from his full team. So we're going to go back to using the hybrid Poison Sting and struggle strat. We're going to use Poison Sting for Dugtrio and Persian, which you're seeing here, and we're going to have a little bit of PP left over just in case things don't go our way, but then we're going to go into Nidoqueen, this time only losing 12 HP against his first 2 team members. And we have 3 Poison Stings left. We're going to use those up as Giovanni sets up a guard spec, and then we're going to start to struggle, and it hits for massive damage. One more struggle takes out the Nidoqueen and brings out the Nidoking. Nidoking also takes huge damage from struggle. Giovanni then opts not to attack, going for a guard spec, and we have 103 going into the Rhydon. It's at this point that Rhydon smacks us in the face when we don't do very much damage to it. It hits us with a Rock Slide, and we get our dreams crushed. So yeah, we're pretty well stuck here. I mean, technically it's possible that we could win with this absolutely perfect luck, but that will take forever, and I still might be trying to get a perfect series. So I make the tough decision to officially end the itemless part of this challenge. I really think it is the only way forward though. The other thing the items do is allows at least some kind of strategy to be introduced to this challenge. It's not a lot, but it's a little bit of something. But even adding items doesn't make this run perfect. As we see in this battle, it's the first time we use an item, we heal up, only to have Rock Slide take us out in one shot. So we see that it is not possible really without these items. So now that we're using items, we can actually talk about a little bit of strategy instead of just mashing the A button repeatedly and hoping for good luck. First thing we're going to do is use a guard spec. This is for 2 reasons. 1, it will prevent our accuracy from getting lowered by sand attack, making this much more consistent, and 2, it felt so good using a guard spec appropriately against Giovanni so he could see how it should be done. Next, we set up 6x attacks, and that will boost our attacks 6 times since Dugtrio can't really do too much damage to us. And because of this, I also decided to use 6x defends to activate the badge boost glitch, further boosting our attack to prevent a Rock Slide one-shot in case we don't take out Rhydon in a single hit. With our setup complete, we switch to the attack, and our superpower Weedle is a beast, one-hit KOing the Dugtrio and the Persian to bring out the Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen is now a 4-hit KO, but it only goes for a couple of Tail Whips and misses a Thunder before going down. Nidoking is going to come out next, and he also is going to be a 4-hit KO. He does hit us with a couple of Thunders for a little bit of damage before Giovanni uses a guard spec, and we're able to take him down and bring out the Rhydon, and let's see if we can take it out this time. Even with our Poison Sting being boosted, we're still so weak against this Rhydon. Remember, this is with 6 stages of attack boost, and we're still maybe in 6 or 7 hit KO range. X defense were definitely a good idea here, and after a few attacks, we're able to get him around half health. We run out of Poison Stings and have to use Struggle, but one Struggle is enough to take down the Rhydon. We survive the recoil, getting us our 8th badge and entry to fight the Elite Four. But before that, we have rival number 6 in our way. I gave it the old college try without items, but it wasn't going well. We could maybe get to the Magneton most times, but Sand Slash is just too tough with its resistances. I have a bit of a Giovanni moment here, and I start with the guard spec because I always forget that this Sand Slash doesn't have Sand Attack anymore. After that, I set up all 6 X attacks before beginning our attacks. Weedle isn't a tank by any means, but it is strong enough to hold its own here. The full setup of 6 X attacks makes this battle so much easier. Our Poison Sting now does just under half damage, so it's going to be a 3-hit KO on the Sand Slash, and we end up making it past the Sand Slash with 81 health. Execute is out next, and it's a one-shot thanks to our Poison Sting being super effective, and that's going to bring out Cloyster next. Cloyster's going to be a 2-shot, but especially after it used Withdraw, I got a little bit nervous and I decided to set up instead. Once I got hit with Clamp, I decided to continue using X-Defense until we used all 6 of them, and then we switched back to attacking, and we finished the Cloyster off with our next Poison Sting. We are looking pretty good right now. We have over 50 health, and that's going to be a great place to go into the Magneton. The 3 Magnets come out, and from here it should be a one-shot sweep with his full team unless we get a critical hit. Magneton goes down, Kadabra goes down, and that brings out Flareon last. Flareon hangs on because of a critical hit, and we get hit with a Fire Spin. Luckily, our stats are high enough that we should be able to survive. We do, and we take out the Flareon. We defeated Rival 6, and we're on to the Elite Four. And about the Elite Four, I didn't think they'd be that bad. After all, we are using items now, right? And how hard can it be when you're using items? I will tell you that this was the hardest Elite Four grind that I have ever had. It was absolutely insane. I still wanted to use the no saving between Elite Four members, and that was a huge problem for Weedle. You see, every single trainer can beat us. Eventually I'd come up with strategies to minimize the chance of losing, but losing was always on the table. I know this video is already getting pretty long, so I won't talk about every single attempt I made, because that would easily make this a 2-hour plus video, and that's just way too long. Instead, we're going to get one quick last look at Weedle beating one goofy looking bird before we get into the Elite Four. With Kanto now free of oversized elemental birds, Weedle can now shift its full focus and attention to becoming a Hall of Famer and beating the Elite Four, becoming the champion that we know it can be. However, this is much easier said than done. First off, I want to address the fact that it technically is possible to beat the Dugong here, but it's going to take extraordinary luck. I'm showing the first and only attempt at itemless here for reference, and it was almost half our PP of Poison Sting before I reset, and while Struggle definitely would have taken out the Dugong, we would stand no chance after that, as her team is fairly bulky and also has strong moves against us. So, with that in mind, we're going to be using items moving forward, and that basically means setting up with X attacks at the start of every battle, and then sometimes using other X items to give a little bit more durability when needed. And that's all I'm going to say for now on that, because like I mentioned, this was an absolutely crazy hard challenge. I have over an hour and a half of battles recorded for this part of the run alone, and that's not even including the battles I tested things out that I didn't think would work. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to show them all, but I will show some of the absolutely weird and broken ways this Elite Four run could end. Before we get into any of the crazy ways we could lose, right now you're seeing a normal loss against Lorelei, where the Dugong for some reason just decided not to rest and just kept on attacking us, and we were able to finally take it out, but only with 11 HP left, so Cloyster easily finishes the job off before we end up moving on. This was probably the most common way that we would lose. We would just get overpowered and not have enough HP to last. But we can also lose because of bad critical hit luck. Since our setup gets ignored if we crit, crits can set us up for a loss, like here against Bruno. You're seeing this battle at 12 times speed, and so you can see how long it takes to take out his Onyx in this long, painful battle after we get set up. Once we do take out the Onyx, we end up getting a crit on the Hitmonchan, which opens us up to an Elemental Punch. On more than one occasion, I got an Ice Punch and got frozen, and that's a very frustrating way to lose this battle. Here though, we get a Thunder Punch, which doesn't end up causing too much damage. We then also get a crit against Hitmonlee, who sets up Double Team, we miss, and then hits us with a Mega Kick to take us out. And then when we don't lose to Lorelei or Bruno, Agatha can be very terrifying as well. Her entire team can resist Poison Sting, and Struggle is completely off the table because of her Ghost typing. She loves using paralysis and confusion, and while that does keep us from getting hit with a Dream Eater, it's also an awful way to try to limp through a battle. Agatha was by far the hardest to get through in this entire run. Funnily enough, as we were progressing through the Elite Four, using our no saving rules of course, the first time I lost to Lorelei, the second time I lost to Bruno, the third time I lost to Agatha, so it stood to reason the next time we would at least make it to Lance, and actually we did make it to Lance on the next one, and you're going to see that first battle here, because this shows exactly how Lance battles typically went. If I was doing this challenge in red or blue, Lance would probably be an easy victory thanks to good AI spamming those psychic moves in barrier and agility, but we're not in red and blue, we're in yellow, so that means Lance's team has a lot better moveset and is a lot scarier overall. Starting with his Gyarados, who is very quick and can do a lot of damage, and also has a high crit chance, which will ignore any setup that we have put in place. This battle starts off pretty well with a critical Poison Sting that was meant to try to get an early poison, but it didn't turn out that way. We did get the crit though, which is nice. We then set up our X attacks, while we also get a good amount of Leers, which is helping us with the badge boost glitch, and then also being able to tank his attacks up until we get down to 25 HP, before we take the time to use a full restore and max out our health again, restoring us for the rest of the battle. Gyarados hits us with one last Leer, and our Poison Sting does huge damage, Hydro Pump misses, and we take out Gyarados, bringing out Dragonair number 1. Dragonair number 1 is a one-shot with Poison Sting, and so is Dragonair number 2. Aerodactyl is out next and can be fairly scary because it does have strong flying moves in Fly and Wing Attack, which can also do damage to us. Wing Attack here, you can see, does big damage, partly because of all those leaders we had, and he goes for Fly, and I use a full restore just in case we need it, and he hits and he does big damage, taking us down to 60 HP, but we're able to take him out on the next turn. Dragonite's out last, and he has Fire Blast, so that's the only move he's going to be using. I use a full restore to prevent us from getting one hit KO there, and we get burned. And you see that we get a critical hit, which is great, and then a Fire Blast crits and takes us out. We were one Pokemon away from reaching the Pokemon Champion, and then everything we had gotten going for us so far came to a screeching halt, and with that loss we go right back to the start of the league and we start all over again. And I was feeling confident I could make it back here fairly soon, but I was so wrong. Like I said, I could easily make this over 2 hours long, and that's because I tried the league over and over and over again. We made it back to Lance a few times, but usually not. I don't think I can really stress how frustrating this process was. The number of times a crit from the AI took us out was truly staggering. I even found new and interesting ways to lose that I honestly can't even explain. The battle you're seeing now happened against Agatha about 40 minutes into my first Elite Four marathon grind session. It starts out like most of the fights before with Agatha, slogging it out with our Poison Sting against Gengar number 1 after we've completed our setup. Nothing too strange here yet. It can't do too much damage to us, but it can be super annoying. Between paralysis and it using Substitute, and then also us getting Mega Drained for low health, it's just a very annoying and frustrating battle. Plus, we have to break its Substitute every time she sets it up, so it just turns into a long, annoying battle, and you can see how many times in this that we were fully paralyzed in this fight. And like I said, this thing can't do much damage to us. We have been going on back and forth for a very long time here. I only have 14 power points of Poison Sting left, and we still have 140 HP left. That is just an absolutely crazy amount. After a very long battle, we are eventually able to finally take out the Gengar and move on to the Golbat. As the Golbat comes out, it uses Wing Attack a couple times on us and it's doing okay damage. Eventually it does confuse us and we do 50 damage to ourselves, and that's going to be enough that we're going to need to heal. After we heal, we come close to knocking out Golbat, but she switches into Haunter, and then we get confused again, still doing 50 damage to ourselves. And after this, eventually we get the Haunter close to coming down, but she'll switch back to Golbat, and we knock out the Golbat, back to Haunter. It goes for Dream Eater, our Poison Sting doesn't quite take it out, and after getting confused, hitting ourselves in confusion again, I use one last full restore, and on that same turn, she switches into Arbok. The first thing I do is set up an X Defend because I'm very cautious about Arbok being able to hit Acid or Wrap, and after setting up an X Defend, The wrap doesn't seem to be doing too much damage, so I take the opportunity to use a few more X items, particularly around special, to make sure that we're ready for when that last Gengar comes out, because I'm very nervous about that. I restore PP on our Poison Sting because we were very low, and I need to make sure we can hit that Gengar if it comes out. After that, Arbok catches us in another wrap, and it still looks like we're doing about the amount that I would expect. It ends up getting us with a Glare, and that is not great because now we're paralyzed. So after setting up some more X items, I set up an X attack just in case. You can see it didn't do anything. At this point, I have absolutely no idea what stage we're supposed to be at. And I use a full restore, get hit with a Screech, and we're still confused. And at this point, I hit myself in confusion, and the damage never stops. That is a one-hit KO from confusion, and I have never seen that before. I don't know exactly what caused it. I have a feeling it's because our attack was very high and our defense was very low, but I didn't think it'd be that low. We had been using X attack and X defend, so I don't know exactly what's going on there. If anyone knows what happened, feel free to let me know in the comments, because I'm really interested to see what other people think happened there. But after multiple hours of this grind and never making it to the champion, I finally broke down and decided to start saving between Elite Four members. Honestly, I just wanted to get done with this so I could move on to a couple other projects I've been working on and stop spending all my free time throwing Weedle at the Elite Four over and over again. I knew I could beat each one individually already, so it was just a matter of time. And that run is what you're seeing now. Honestly, I've already talked through the strategies on all these battles. There's not much more to talk about. Basically, it's always set up X attacks and then use full restores if getting too low on health and hope you don't get hit with the crit. I'm actually going to show the saves here just so you can see that I actually did save between each of these, but I'm going to block out the time on each one because we got to keep some mysteries to see exactly how long it takes before Weedle finishes and see where it falls on the tier list. That's a little bit of a joke because we know that Weedle's going to be at the bottom of the tier list right now. It's level 100. Its time to clear Rock Tunnel was about the same as Coughing's time to complete the game, so we know it's going to be at the bottom, but the final time still remains to be seen. I gotta save a little bit of something for those of you who have still made it this far into the video. You're seeing these battles sped up to 3 times my recording speed, which I'm already playing at 4x speed, and the reason I'm doing that is because no one needs to see 3+ minutes of me pressing the A button repeatedly till I get a win. That is the brutal part of the Weedle run that is really hard to explain unless you've gone through one of these yourself. It is just pushing the A button over and over again until you finally get to the victory screen. After beating Bruno, we're now on to Agatha, and one funny part about this run is that I've finally started saving in front of the Elite Four members, but we've had an absolutely fantastic run to this point. Like, the best we've had in a long time. I didn't lose to Lorelei, I didn't lose to Bruno, and going into the Agatha battle, it actually turns out to be one of the best Agatha battles that we have in the entire run. So as you're seeing this battle, I just wanted to call something out that I've wanted to talk about for a little bit. It has nothing to do with the Elite Four right now. But one thing I think is really fun playing these games again is seeing the color changes in Pokemon Yellow when you go into different towns. You know, looking at blue for Cerulean City, the green in Celadon. Really cool when you actually see those on the screen. When I was doing this at first, I didn't always recognize or appreciate that on my Game Boy or my Game Boy Color at the time. So playing these again and playing them back, it's really cool to see all that, and it's really cool to see that extra flavor that it added to the game. That story also serves as a nice time filler as we're able to whittle down the Gengar, defeating Agatha, making our way back to Lance again for the 4th time ever. On our previous 3 attempts, all got ended by critical hits, one by the Dragonite that you saw, one by a Gyarados Hydro Pump, and one by an Aerodactyl Fly, so I'm hoping as long as we avoid a crit, we'll have a good chance to win this one. You can see by the fact that I saved 2 times before this battle that I'm obviously pretty nervous about this one, but we're going to head on into the battle and see how we do against the Dragon Master. As usual, we're going to be starting out with our setup, and once we get down to about half health and we're in critical hit knockout range, we'll use either heals or we'll go on the offensive. Gyarados comes out. Like I said, we're started setting up that X attack. Dragon Rage is probably one of the best things that we can see right now, and Hyper Beam isn't too bad either because it does allow us to set up a little bit more. We're able to get in 5 X attacks before we get into that range. Then we move on to the offensive, and we end up taking out the Gyarados after we heal ourselves up, so we have full health heading into the Dragonair. The Dragonair number 1 comes out, And we're going to go Poison Sting, and it's not quite a one-shot. We need that little bit of extra X attack, and I go for it. And as we get hit with a Thunderbolt, critical hit, does pretty good damage, but we're still doing okay. We take out Dragonair number 1, Dragonair number 2 comes out, and it hangs on. We get a poison though, so that poison damage is enough to take it out on our next attempt. Aerodactyl's out next, and Poison Sting's doing good damage, and it goes for Fly. So I go for X Defend to give us a little bit extra boost. We get the Fly miss though, and that allows us to poison the Aerodactyl, tank a Wing Attack, and take out the Aerodactyl to bring us back to Dragonite. Dragonite's out, and we do big damage with our Poison Sting, over half damage, but then we get burned, and now we're going to be doing very, very little damage the remainder of the fight, because that burn is going to half our attack from here on out. Even though we do restore, we're still lowered. We do multiple turns of back and forth before we finally get our poison to stick in. We're still taking Fire Blast after Fire Blast though, and we're burning through full restores, making sure that we're able to tank this Dragonite's attacks. After a while, he finally misses, and even though we get hit with one more Fire Blast, he's still at low enough health that one more Poison Sting takes him out. We are very fortunate to have never got hit with a critical hit Fire Blast, and with that, we're to the Pokemon Champion for the first time in this video. So, you know what time it is. Cue up that champion theme battle music. Let's see if we can get Weedle into the Hall of Fame. I'm really hoping so because I want this run to be over. I want to try some new Pokemon. I'm sick of mashing my A button, but let's see how it goes. Champion battle starts now. Things start out very poorly for us when we get a Gen 1 miss, 1 in 256 chance of that happening right off the start. This is just great. I'm not sure why, but Sandslash isn't using Earthquake here, and I'm not complaining, it's only using Fury Swipes, which is surprising, but it's fantastic because it allows us to set up our X attacks, and it'll give us a good chance to heal when we need it. Of course, as soon as I say that, it goes for Slash, and it does big damage. Then it goes back to Fury Swipes, and I'm able to set up a couple more X attacks before we get hit with another Slash, which almost takes us out, and then we're going to need a full restore before we start attacking. If we weren't using items, I don't think this would be possible at all. Being able to heal makes such a big difference, and without those X items, there's no way Weedle is going to be able to do anywhere near enough damage to take out a Sandslash, let alone the rest of our rivals' team. I mean, just look at how much damage we're doing versus how much we're taking, and this is with a boosted Weedle. That's absolutely crazy. Eventually, we get our Poison to stick, which is going to help us take out the Sandslash a little bit quicker, and that's going to move us on to the Alakazam. As long as we outspeed the Alakazam, we should have a one-shot, but just in case, I use one more full restore right before we take out the Sandslash. We do outspeed Alakazam, and that means it's a one-shot thanks to its low defense and Weedle's boosted stats. That means Exeggutor is out next, and I thought this would also be a one-shot, but it hangs on with a sliver of health. And then it puts us to sleep with Hypnosis. I use a full restore only to be put right back to sleep because I forgot the opponent reacts to your moves instead of picking at random. We only sleep for a few turns and don't take any real damage here though, and then we can wake up and take out the Walking Palm Tree. Magneton's out next, and it's a 2-hit KO. It hits a Screech on us, so our defense is down, but that's not going to be too much of a problem here. Cloyster's out next. It's going to be a 3-hit. As long as we didn't get an attack drop there by Aurora Beam, we would have been okay, and we don't get it, and that allows us to take out the Cloyster. With minimal damage, we have over half our health left going into Flareon. Flareon gets hit with massive damage, and we're able to two-shot it as it goes for Reflect, and that wins us the battle, and that gets us into the Hall of Fame. And finally, Weedle run is complete. This run was absolutely crazy. Funny that on the first run I used saving in front of the Elite Four, we actually didn't need to anymore. I fully understand why there aren't many itemless Weedle run attempts out there. It's a brutal challenge, and while they're exciting fights, a lot of it just comes to RNG and needing specific events to claim victory. Add in the amount of grinding to the equation, I can easily say that I'm happy to be done with this challenge. There were definitely some strange battles, particularly with the gym leaders, but it really added to the challenge overall. It was fun and interesting, but I'm not looking forward to doing that again, and I can only hope that the wheel's going to be generous in avoiding either Caterpie, Metapod, Magikarp, or Kakuna in the next few runs. Weedle obviously finished at level 100, but the time to finish was 30 hours and 41 minutes of game time. Remember, I play this at 4 times game speed, but holy cow, I didn't realize it was that long. That doesn't even account for all the resets, and as predicted, Weedle finds its home in its own tier right at the bottom of our list. Weedle's time gets an asterisk because it did need items, but he's now been added to the tier list, and we're going to spin the wheel to see who comes up next. Please be nice to me, wheel. As we're slowing down, we're going to see that this time we're going to be using Horsey. I can live with that. Pure water Pokemon, so at least the early game should be much better. And I think it's very safe to say that it shouldn't take nearly as long as the Weedle run did. If you liked the video, please be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified when the newest videos drop. I know it's been pretty long, so thanks for sticking around for the whole thing. I really appreciate all my viewers and hope you enjoyed watching me struggle through this one. Until next time, I'm Droozee, and I hope to see you again soon.